Good evening, everyone. I'm Stephanie Opstead, the branch manager at the Heritage Library here in Lakeville. This is my 6th OneBook, and I'm so pleased to be back with you in person. Welcome back. Woo! I'd also like to extend a very warm welcome to those of us joining us via live stream. This is our first hybrid event, so welcome to everyone online. Yes, woo! Thanks for joining us. As always, I'm just truly honored to be able to share another special book with this community. We have a fantastic night planned for you, including a performance by Minnesota's own acoustic music master, Michael Monroe. Woo! We'll follow that with a brief intermission, and there'll be beverages available for sale in the upper lobby. And then, of course, after that, we have the privilege of hearing from our OneBook author, Chris Ingraham. He will be joined in conversation by the one and only Kerri Miller of NPR News and host of Talking Volumes. Yes. And after their discussion, there'll be time for you to ask Chris questions about his book. If you're live streaming, have your questions ready to put into the chat, and we'll try to get to as many as we can. And then after the event, Chris is kind enough to stay with us a while to sign copies of his book, which will be available for purchase in the lobby. And Michael Monroe will have his CDs available for purchase and signing as well. Before we get started, I need to thank a few very special people and the organizations that help make this event possible. Thank you very much to the City of Lakeville and the staff here at the Art Center for sharing this beautiful venue with us. A round of applause for that, please. The staff really went above and beyond this year, so thank you very much. And I'd like to thank the Friends of the Art Center. We greatly appreciate your continued support every year. And I'd like to thank the entire staff at the Heritage Library for all you do to promote reading and to support our community, especially in these last couple of years, so thank you. It's a great pleasure to work with you. And as always, my heartfelt thanks to our Adult Services Librarian, Luann Filipich. Woo! Luann amazes me throughout the year, but especially during OneBook season, so thank you for your 22 years at Heritage and for bringing 14 OneBooks to Lakeville. Thank you, Luann. And last but certainly not least, a special thanks to the wonderful Friends of the Heritage Library, their president, Ann Bruciani-Lyon. Yes, thank you, Ann. The incredible OneBook OneLakeville committee, thank you so much, committee, for hanging in there with us. And certainly committee chair and local author Loretta Ellsworth. And now it's my pleasure to introduce to you the president of the Friends of the Heritage Library, Ann Bruciani-Lyon.
Hi, I'm Ann Bruciani-Lyon, president of the Friends of the Heritage Library. Got to put my readers on, sorry. And we are delighted to have you with us tonight. I'd like to start by saying thank you to all of our donors. This program is made possible in part with funds from the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund, which was approved by Minnesota voters in 2008. It is also made possible by the generosity of community partners. And thank you to the City of Lakeville, Cornerstone Copy Center, the Dakota County Library, the Dakota Electric Association, the Friends of the Lakeville Area Arts Center, the Lakeville Lions, the Minnesota Association of Library Friends, and Sigrid Ruman. We appreciate your support. With that, please give a warm welcome to Loretta Ellsworth, our OneBook OneLakeville chair, who made so much of this possible tonight.
Thank you. It's great to be back together in person, and as Stephanie mentioned earlier, to be a part of our first hybrid event. I want to take a moment to cover a few housekeeping issues, to remind you all to silence or turn off your cell phones. Everybody do that. First, this program is being recorded and will be shared on the Friends of the Lakeville Heritage Library Facebook page and on Dakota County Library's YouTube channel. Second, if you are interested in becoming a volunteer with the Friends, please go to our website at heritagelibraryfriends.com and fill out a contact form or send us an email. Third, if you are interested in supporting the Friends of the Library, there are donation boxes in the lobby tonight, or you can visit our website, heritagelibraryfriends.com, and click Donate Now. And lastly, we would like to recognize Luann Filipich, the adult librarian at Heritage who has been instrumental with OneBook OneLakeville since its inception, and whose steadfast guidance, expertise, and friendship have been of tremendous value over the years. OneBook OneLakeville simply wouldn't have existed without her. Since Luann will be retiring next month, this will be her last OneBook OneLakeville. Yeah, I know. Luann has arranged the music every year, providing complimentary pairing that always seems perfect. And she's the reason everything runs so smoothly behind the scenes. She will be greatly missed by her colleagues, the Friends, in this community. So Luann, in recognition of your 22 years of service, we present you with a token of our appreciation. And we also have a few others who want to share well wishes as well.
Hey there, Luann. Congratulations on your many years of service to Lakeville, to the library. I remember with great clarity the night I rolled into Lakeville, Minnesota for OneBook OneLakeville. And when I pulled up to the venue, there parked out front was a great big old red fire truck with a banner on it that said population 485. So thank you so much for giving me that memory and for all you've done for the community. If you notice behind me here, there's also a sign that says population 485. So thank you so much for everything you've done, for giving my little book a boost way back when, and may the future hold many good things for you, good things you've earned. See you down the road, as we say over here in Wisconsin. Forward.
We're live.
We are.
Hi, this
Hi.
is a little message for Luann.
That's
Hi,
right.
Luann.
Hi, Luann.
This is Ann Reed.
This is Jen Chenard.
And we were just saying that that Luann, you helped book Ann's Dorothy Fields show.
That's right.
In Lakeville many, many years ago.
And then you just had us for sing-alongs and all sorts of things down there. So
Yes, most recently in April of 2019.
that's right.
And we're so grateful for all the work that you've done and for involving us in some of it. And we thought we would sing you just a little snippet of a song. Nobody knows that this song was actually written about retirees getting reacquainted with themselves after retirement.
Getting to know you, getting to know all about you.
When I am with you,
When I am with you, getting to know what to say. Haven't you noticed? Suddenly I'm bright and breezy because of all the beautiful and new things I'm learning about you. Day by day. Happy retirement.
congratulations.
Yes.
Hi, Luann. Happy retirement. And I just want to wish you all the best of luck in your retirement. Hopefully lots of time to read good books and do all sorts of other things you've been putting off and wanting to enjoy. I want to thank you for everything you've done for authors at Lakeville. You were one of the early adopters of my book, Enrique's Journey, and it's gone on to sell nearly 1 million copies, and more importantly, just educate a lot of people about this complex, polarizing issue that too often people prefer to hate than get to understand this issue more deeply. And you helped spread the word about the book early on in Minnesota, and it took off there and elsewhere. And just last night, I was at an event in New York State, and a student came up and said, you know, I was taught to hate all immigrants by my father. I didn't even know there was a different way of looking at this. This was assigned as a one book at my college. You put me in the shoes of a migrant boy, and it changed my perspective. And now I'm arguing with my father over these issues and trying to get him to open his heart and his mind on some of these issues. So thank you for what you've done for authors like me who struggle to bring these complex, difficult issues before the American public. And I wish you the best in retirement. And thank you for the bottom of my heart. Thanks.
Congratulations, Luann. This is Kalia Yang, wishing you a happy retirement. Thank you for your work on behalf of OneBook Lakeville. I am so excited for the next chapter in your story.
Hi, Luann. Kent Kruger here. Just popping in to say what a pleasure it's been to work with you across all these years. I know you've got lots of adventures still ahead of you, but I hope our paths continue to cross. In this next exciting leg of your life's journey, may the road always rise to meet your feet. Good luck and take care.
Hi, Luann. Congratulations on your retirement. I'm happy to be part of one book today, your last one from what I hear. So just remember in retirement to follow your happiness. Follow your happiness. If there is one thing in this life to remember, it's follow your happiness.
Hi, Luann. I want to take this opportunity to acknowledge the support and encouragement you've given to writers in our community throughout your career, and me personally. I've had 5 books published so far, and you've arranged a publication party for every single one of those. I know you've purchased copies of my books to give to friends and family, and that you've recommended my books to readers. And it's so heartwarming to have your hometown librarian support you this way. I really appreciate it. I hope you have a wonderful retirement, that you get to do everything on your bucket list and more. But please know that we will miss you, and I wish you the very best.
Thank you so much, everyone. How about one more round of applause for Luann? Congratulations, Luann. Surprise! Those of you who have been to OneBooks in the past know that we always have a very special guest provide a welcome and help us introduce the main part of the evening. So it's my honor to now ask you to join me in welcoming Lakeville's Mayor Pro Tem, Councilman Luke Hellier.
So I have 20 minutes, is that the... So I just want to welcome you all to Lakeville if you're not from here. Mayor Anderson was unable to attend tonight, so you get me. I'm just going to 2 seconds to recognize my colleagues, John Bermel and Joshua Lee from the council are here tonight. We just are so thankful for this program. It's so meaningful to have something that has been a long time, and thank you, Luann, for doing that. So I went to St. John's University, and so that means that you follow the rule of Benedict, which hospitality is the most important rule to follow. So I heard, Chris, that you got carded at our liquor store today, so I apologize. But, oh, not today, okay. So job well done, team. But I have something for you and for Kerri and Michael. Earlier this year, we opened our 4th store, and Modest Brewing out of Minneapolis made this in honor of that. This has got the map of the city of Lakeville on there. So you can, if you ever forget about us, you can always look at these cans. So I have a 4-pack for each of you, so thank you for being here. It's good, yeah. We have 4 locations, so feel free to stop at any of the 4 on your way out of town and purchase the Cutting the Ribbon. admittedly, I didn't read this book when it came out because I felt like I had followed the saga on Twitter and knew the story. But I will say that I'm grateful that I did read it when it became OneBook OneLakeville. And if I had read it at the time, I wouldn't have been as surprised with the outcome of the pandemic and how quickly people were willing to embrace working remotely or hybrid if you're able to. Because of that rat race that you talked about living on the East Coast. I mean, I don't live there, but as someone that commuted to downtown Minneapolis, I identified with that. I mean, I'm grateful that I only go there a day a week, to be honest. But so I just was so struck by that in your book. And there was another passage that you talked about how comparing the prairie to the oceans, and I've always felt that when I would travel between here, when I grew up here and going to St. John's, there's plenty of nothingness on the way to St. Cloud. But sorry to anybody that lives in Maple Grove. Anyway, so thank you for being here, and Kerri for coming to join us as well. But I'll take a brief moment to introduce our musician. Our opening act tonight is Michael Monroe, a Minnesota treasure whose music celebrates life in the North Country. Michael lived and recorded in his solar-powered log cabin studio on Lake Superior's North Shore until relocating to the Twin Cities in 2021, which is the opposite of everybody else. Everybody else moved to the North Shore in 2021, but welcome. He's recorded 17 CDs and performed venues, including the 318 Cafe Crooners, the Guthrie, Lake Harriet Bandshell, and the Chanhassen Dinner Theater. Michael and National Geographic photographer and best-selling author Jim Brandenburg have collaborated on numerous projects, including the award-winning film Chased by the Light, a sensory feast of the Northwoods. His guitars are even made on the Gunflint Trail, and his fretboard is made of 200-year-old birch, which has been reclaimed from the bottom of Lake Superior. Please help me welcome Michael Monroe to OneBook OneLakeville.
Thank you. I'm going to start with a song that I wrote on the deck of my Hoveland home 20-some years ago. Behind the house where I grew up was a beautiful forest, and it seemed to go on forever, or as far as I could see from my backyard. Used to jump off the school bus, change my clothes, and run down that steep embankment to my favorite tree with my dog. And I was happy in my backyard. I am at home with the world in my backyard. And as I grew older and I went to college and I tried to learn the ways of the world, my heart and my soul were still in my backyard. But I tried this and I tried that, nothing seemed to fit me, till I fell in love with music, and it took me right back to my backyard. I am at home with the world when I play guitar. Well, I've been to France and I've been to India, took a vacation to Jamaica. I had lost my way to my backyard. Thought I'd left behind my pressures, thought I'd left behind my friends, even left behind my music, but I should have left myself instead, 'cause I was longing for my backyard. I'm at home with the world in my backyard. Behind the house where I live now is a beautiful forest, and it seems to go on and on and on forever. Thank you. Yeah, everybody says, are you nuts? Leaving the North Shore and all that beautiful solitude. I loved the solitude for years. And when I was sitting out on that deck of our Hoveland place that was off the grid, no electricity, no running water, no internet, no phone. I had a lot of time to play guitar, so I was out on the deck. I got the idea for that song with those notes. And after a time, I needed electricity because I wanted to record in that setting. I didn't want to take these songs, woodsy songs, to the city to record, and so you need electricity for that. So I hooked up solar panels on the roof and batteries and inverters and fuses, everything, plugged everything in, and it worked. So most of my CDs out there are recorded with solar power. They will play on your coal-powered CD players. If you have a CD player anymore. But we loved that remote setting, and this is a song about country roads. We had a 3/4-mile road, dirt road to our place in Hoveland, and then when we moved to Grand Marais, we had even a longer dirt road to our place, and so people don't wash their cars up there. It's just pointless. Take to the highway, won't you lend me your name? Your way and my way seem everyone and the same. My mama don't understand it. She wants to know where I've been. I'd have to be some kind of natural born fool to wanna walk that way again. But you know I can feel it on a country road. Sail on home to Jesus, won't you, good girls and boys? I'm all in pieces, and you can have your own choice. But I can hear a heavenly band full of angels coming to set me free. I don't know nothing about the why or when, but I can tell you that it's gonna be, 'cause I know I can feel it on a country road. Guess my feet know where they want me to go. Walking on a country road. On a country road. Take to the highway, won't you lend me your name? Your way and my way seem to be one and the same. Your mama don't understand it. Wants to know where I've been. road. Walk on down, 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 walk on down the country road. On a country road. Now every time I walk along a country road, I get the same feeling from my head to my toe. I don't know where it's from, don't know where it's gonna go, but I gotta jump back, maybe feel it some more. Everything's fine and I'm okay. I don't know how it happened to me today, yeah, but every time I walk along a country road, about the same thing goes down. Country road. On a country road. Thank you. These guitars are made by David Seaton, who lives on the Gunflint Trail, and he bugged me for like 2 years to look at his guitars, and I was very skeptical. I thought, Gunflint Trail, luthier. And he pulled this out, and when I finally agreed to look, and it just blew my mind because it's so asymmetrical. The sound hole's in the wrong place. Some people think it's a cup holder, and but then I started playing it, and I went, oh, so now I have 5. But this song is an a cappella tune in honor of leaving commuting and traffic jams. Let's see here. Got that note yet, Michael? Damn this traffic jam, how I hate to be late. Hurts my motor that goes so slow. By the time I get home, my supper be cold. Damn this traffic jam. Damn this traffic jam, how I hate to be late. Hurts my motor that goes so slow. By the time I get home, my supper be cold. Damn this traffic jam. Well, I left my job about 5 o'clock. Took 15 minutes to go 3 blocks. Just in time to stand in line with the freeway looking like a parking lot. And say, damn this traffic jam, how I hate to be late. Hurts my motor that goes so slow. By the time I get home, my supper be cold. Damn this traffic jam. Now, I almost had a heart attack. Looking in the rearview mirror, I saw myself, the next car back, looking in the rearview mirror, about to have a heart attack. I said, damn this traffic jam, how I hate to be late. Hurts my motor that goes so slow. By the time I get home, my supper be cold. Damn this traffic jam. Now, I used to think that I was cool running around on fossil fuel until I learned what I was doing was driving down the road to ruin. Damn this traffic jam. I used to listen to my dad in barbershop quartets, and he would compete in the Army, and they'd do these rounds, and it was so much fun. They'd have the big chair there, and they'd all have the fake mustaches and the garter belt things, and moving around the chair and singing. So I always had these 4 parts in my head, but I'm a solo. So I at one point found this looping thing, live looping. I've never been a fan of having backup tracks that are on a CD or a computer, but the live looping keeps me on my toes. I have to sing in tune, or it comes back out of tune and off time, so it's a lot of fun. So I wrote this song while I was roller skating around Lake of the Isles at 2 in the morning. I had just finished performing at a place called Prochna on Main. I'd been there for about a year and a half, and I was always pretty wired by the end of the night. But 1 o'clock, I played 9 to 1, and so I'd pop on my skates, skate around Lake of the Isles, and work off the energy. And so this one time I was doing it, I got into this rhythm, and this melody was coming in my head, and the lyrics were coming in my head, and by the time I got back to the van, I had a whole song. I had to stop and write all the lyrics down quickly so I wouldn't forget them. So this is my philosophy of life, this song called Follow Your Happiness. Hey. Oh, bop doom bop doom bop doom bow bop doom bop do you bow bop doom bop doom bop bow bop doom bop do you bow bop doom bop bow bop doom bop do you bow bop doom bop bow bop doom bop do you bow bop doom bop just prove it. Follow your happiness. Follow your happiness. Sometimes I can't tell the difference, so once in a while I stop and let the rest of the world pass me by. In the quiet of my heart, I find the reason why. You got to follow your happiness. Follow your happiness. If there is one thing in this life to remember, it's follow your happiness. Else's lines, well, I'd rather die, but I know when I feel happy, and I know when something's askew. When I'm happy, I'm living in harmony, and I feel closer to the truth. So I say, follow your happiness, follow your happiness. If there is one thing in this life to remember, it's follow your happiness. 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 You got to follow your happiness. If there is one thing in this life to remember, it's follow your happiness. Follow your happiness. You got to follow your happiness. If there is one thing in this life to remember, it's follow your happiness. Thank you. So the first guitar I played, this one's name is Flamenca del Rosa. I think because of the rosewood on the back and sides. This one's name is the Baby Snow Leopard. I think maybe because of the spots. This is Bird's Eye Poplar from the North Shore, back in the woods. And Spruce from David's backyard. This is the birch here that's 200 years old. And the spruce, there was a huge storm back in '99, I think it was. Tons of trees, thousands of acres of trees were lost. and David's right at the edge of the boundary waters, and he lost a bunch of trees, and he went, "Oh, guitars." So when we moved up there, it was this whole idea of getting out of the city and being closer to nature and living the simple life, which we learned was not very easy, because there was a lot of hauling of water and plowing that 3/4 mile driveway and chopping wood and shoveling off the roof. And yeah, it was challenging, and I was going to write a facetious song about the simple life. But then when I'm sitting there in my little studio looking out at these perfectly snow-flocked trees and just appreciating where I was, I got all sappy and wrote this song. We built our house back in the woods, built it ourselves because we could. And when we were done, we said it was good. We wanted to live the simple life. I gather wood right off our land, split it for fire with my own hands. Draw my water from the spring when I can, also we can live the simple life. I just couldn't live in the city. There's way too many roads and not enough trees. I can only take it for a day or two, then it's back to the simple life. I was brought up at the edge of town, 1 foot on pavement, 1 on ground. Crowded days at school spun my head around, so I'd hurry home to my simple life. Now I can't seem to give up one or the other. The city's my work, the woods my lover, so I'll go between the two forever, as long as I can live my simple life. I just couldn't live in the city. There's way too many people and not enough solitude. I can only take it for a day or two, then it's back to the simple life. I just couldn't live in the city. There's way too many people and not enough solitude. I can only take it for a day or two, then it's back to the simple life. So now I find my music in the woods, in between shores of water and wood. And then I pack up my songs of string on wood and bring you a taste of my simple life. You know it's all inside our heads, no matter what we do or where we make our bed, as long as we are loving and we're fed. Anyone can live a simple life. Anyone can live a simple life. I just want to live a simple life. This one's name is the Snow Leopard. They're brothers. Same wood. That one's a tenor guitar. This one's a baritone. When David handed me this guitar, I just flipped out because I love bass. There's actually a bass string on the bottom here. And I was thinking about the trees that went into this instrument and the fact that I'm kind of a tree hugger. Happy Earth Day yesterday, by the way. Every day should be Earth Day, because where would we be without her? Floating around, no, we wouldn't be anywhere. So I was thinking about the trees that went into this guitar, and this song just kind of popped out. It's called As It Should Be. Growing side by side, with no fear of who is standing near. Our roots are intertwined. What's yours is mine. We're all just reaching for the stars. And one they named Soul the Sun. On Terra we'll draw a life from. She sees us all on earth as one. Boundaries none, life and light for all. We could take a lesson from the trees. We could take direction from the breeze. We could take a moment to see everything is as it should be. Changing poison into air, growing branches where we lose all our cares, living long, going nowhere, watching as the world passes by. And though this old poplar fell, it's living on with a song to tell. So can we make harmony from the people falling needlessly? We could take a lesson from the trees. We could take direction from the breeze. We could take a moment to see everything is as it should be. We could take a lesson from the trees. We could take direction from the breeze. We could take a moment to see everything is as it should be. as the moon rises high and casts the shadow of a leaf on my eye. I know I don't have to try to understand the mystery in a sigh. We could take a lesson from the trees. We could take direction from the breeze. We could take a moment to see everything is as it should be. We could take a lesson from the trees. Everything is as it should be. We could take direction from the breeze. Everything is as it should be. We could take a moment to see. Everything is as it should be. Everything is as it should be. Back to Rosie. Rosie for short. So for the first 40 years of my career, I was focused on writing songs, inspired by all these awesome artists that I grew up with. A lot of us grew up listening to, like James Taylor, Joni Mitchell, Simon & Garfunkel, Cat Stevens. So after being so devoted to writing music, I was approached to do some tribute shows. And I went, big shift to do other people's stuff all night long. Turns out I really like it. So I do a tribute show in Chanhassen Dinner Theater. I'm going to be there in July doing a James Taylor tribute, and then we're doing a cat one too at some point, aren't we? Pardon me? Yeah. And also this summer I'll be playing at Lake Harriet Band Show. Come on out in August to see me there. And Apple Valley is very close. Coming up in, is that June? July. That's July also. So I have got schedules back here. Please grab it if you want to come out and see me again. I would love to have you. And we also have CDs back there. And we kind of saw this coming, you know, that cars don't have CD players, computers don't have CD slots anymore. Yeah, how many have a turntable at home? Hey, wow, that's great. I did bring some vinyl too, from 1980. Yeah, my first album was vinyl. It was the year when everybody started buying CD players. And I wanted an album. It was my first album. I didn't want this little thing, you know. I didn't even know what a compact disc was. So I told the producer, no, I want to do vinyl. And then by the end of the year, everybody I knew was buying CDs. And so we have a garage full. But then if you don't have a CD player and you do have USB in your car, you can get my music on a guitar-shaped USB drive. I know, isn't it cute? Anybody can play this guitar. And I have different versions, 1 album, 3 albums, everything I've ever done. And there's even one with 2 videos from our log cabin concerts that we did for so many years that we had to stop when the pandemic happened, which is part of the reason we ended up moving down here. I inherited my parents' house in Golden Valley, the one I grew up in. So that backyard song talking about the backyard and then the house I live in now, backyard, it's full circle. Pretty cool. So And my website is michaelmonroemusic.com, in case any of you made the mistake of going to michaelmonroe.com and got the crazy acid rocker from Hanoi Rocks, whose real name is Mette Fagerholm. And we're constantly getting these links mixed up, and people are thinking I'm him, and how did you change so much? And they buy my album online and say, is this really early work or what? And God. Michael Monroe Music. And we love it when you post something on Facebook about what you saw tonight, heard tonight. My guitar tech didn't show up tonight, so I have to do this myself. Bless you. So I'll leave you with this one. I'm excited to hear Christopher, and loved the book. I had felt so many parallels about when we moved up north, and you just wait. They paved paradise and they put up a parking lot with a big hotel, a boutique, and a swinging hot spot. Now don't it always seem to go, but you don't know what you've got till it's gone. You paved paradise, you put up a parking lot. Shoo, bop, 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 shoo, that is your part. Shoo, bop, 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 shoo, bop, there's harmony. Shoo, bop, 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 or shoo, bop, 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 choose it. Shoo, bop, 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 shoo, bop, bop, bop. Yeah, they took all the trees, put them in a tree museum, and they charged the people $1.50 just to see them. Now don't it always seem to go, but you don't know what you've got till it's gone. You gave every day, put up a parking. Here, I thought you were singing along. Shoo, bop, 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 shoo, bop, bop, bop. Yeah, hey, farmer, farmer, put away that DDT now. Give me spots on the apple, but they need the birds and the leaves. Please don't let always seem to go, but you don't know what you've got till it's gone. You pay paradise and you put up a parking lot. Shoo, bop, 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 shoo, bop, 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 shoo, bop, 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 shoo, bop, bop, bop. Well, late last night, heard that screen door slam, and a big yellow taxi came and took away my old man. Now don't it always seem to go, but you don't know what you've got till it's gone. Pay paradise, put up a parking lot. Shoo, bop, 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 shoo, bop, 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 yeah. Late last night, heard that screen door slam again, and a big yellow tractor came and took away my house and my land. Now don't it always seem to go, but you don't know what you've got till it's gone. You pay paradise, put up a parking lot. Shoo, bop, 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 shoo, bop, bop, bop. I said, don't it always seem to go, but you don't know what you've got till it's gone. You pay paradise and you put up a parking lot. Shoo, bop, 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 bop. You pay paradise and you put up a parking lot. Shoo, bop, 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 bop. You pay paradise, put up a parking lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Michael. I'm very seldom speechless, but I love that performance. Thank you so much for setting the tone for the evening. It's perfect. One more round of applause for Michael. We'll now have a brief 10-minute intermission. Restrooms are on the lower level, and beverages are available for purchase in the upper lobby. See you back here in 10 minutes. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back, everyone. Moment we've all been waiting for. Please welcome Kerri Miller and OneBook OneLakeville author Chris Ingraham.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming. Thank you for the invitation. It's a Saturday night. I was thinking maybe the mayor pro tem could set us up with a few beers on the table. How about, maybe you've got one right tonight. It's really great to be here. What a wonderful turnout. Okay, I gotta confess something. I thought there'd be like 50 people here. I thought this is so quaint. They're doing the one book thing. This is so nice that you turn out like this. And I hope all of you have read the book. There is a quiz.
I'll be calling on people at random. So.
Right. No, there is Q&A after our conversation, and we'll have people with mics roaming. So think about that. Means it's a question, not a statement about whatever you think or something. So be thinking of questions for us. I took a job in television news, and I moved to Minnesota on the eve of the great Halloween blizzard. Yeah. Days before. And I came from Oklahoma, so I knew nothing of these kinds of blizzards. Within 24 hours, I'd abandoned my broken down car on the side of the road, no lie. I'd learned that my dog and cat were marooned at Delta's cargo facility because my husband did not know that a blizzard was happening. He just put them on the plane to come up here. And I had embarked on dozens of TV live shots in wind and snow so ferocious that the words were literally snatched out of my mouth as I was saying them. I did not have the clothes for this. It was absurd. And yet I stayed in Minnesota. Right? Right. What's my problem? So, is it stubbornness? Is it sheer cantankerousness? Or is it what Chris Ingraham discovered when he declared Red Lake County the absolute worst place to live in America?
Are you going to rub my nose in all the words that I wrote? That happens a lot. That's fine.
Then he moved there with his family and stayed. So tonight a conversation about what quantitative analysis and data points miss about a place, what many of us misunderstand about someplace else, right? The place we don't live, any place else, and why 40 below, 16 hours of darkness, and 6 greener pastured bunnies are not the whole story. You know what I mean if you've read the book. Christopher Ingraham's book is titled, If You Lived Here, You'd Be Home by Now. Please give him another warm welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to ask you the question that my mother asked me today when I told her about this whole backstory and what we were doing tonight. She said, was it a stunt? Is the stunt over? When is he moving back?
Yeah, so it's a stunt. It's been ongoing for 6 years now.
6 years, right.
No, I get that question all the time. Shortly after I moved here, and then after the book came out, like people assumed two things. Okay, first they're going to stay here for a year, and then they're going to go back, and then second, like if they're write the book, and then they're going to go back. And we thought, like, honest to God, we thought about it, like yeah, like especially after that first winter, like this time of year. We're like this because like this time of year in DC, it's like 75 degrees and sunny and mild, and out here you got the snert. That's a word that I learned. The snow dirt thing, and like you got snert, and it's just everything's muddy and disgusting. So we thought about it, but no, it's home. This is where we live now. We are absolutely not going back to DC. We're here. This is who we are now. We're part of the community.
Do your friends from DC say, okay, come on, dude, you got a book out of it. Are you really staying? I mean, what's the reaction from the people who knew you when as a suburban dweller, a dude that worked at the Washington Post?
Yeah, well, so a lot of people, like, they're like, yeah, okay, come back. My wife's friends especially, but they, like, our friends also know that we're like kind of weirdos, right? Like we're we're the kind of people who would like go live in the middle of nowhere for a while and then decide that they like it and decide they want to stay there. So that people who know us know that we're, I grew up in a smallish town myself, Oneonta, New York, 13,000 people, not huge. And so having been, all over the country and then going to DC for a while, I was kind of primed for something like this. But the Minnesota experience, the Minnesota small town experience was so different than anything that I was used to from like upstate New York or places I had been.
You said you and your wife are weirdos. Who's the weirder of the weirdos?
It's definitely me. It's actually like, so since we've moved to town, like my wife is very outgoing and she's like very involved with the community, right? So
she's on the city council.
She's on the city council. Yeah. She's the vice mayor, mayor pro tem sometimes. So we stand mayor pro tems in our household. She started work at the local high school this year. She teaches English there now.
She is wonderful. Is she here tonight by any chance?
Is she what?
Is she here?
No, unfortunately.
She is so impressive.
It's her, and then there's the 3 kids, which that's a whole other thing. We couldn't wrangle all 3 kids for this trip. But so she's out in the community joining boards and doing this thing, and she loves that stuff. And I knew that that's why she would love it here. Me, like, I'm like your classic, like, weirdo hermit writer who just wants to, like, sit in a dark room and, like, play with his computer all day.
Yeah.
And so, it's good for me because I get to do that there, and it's also good for her because she gets to be part of the community there.
I think is there really anybody in the room who hasn't read the book?
You can raise your hand. I won't call on you.
I was gonna, maybe on the live stream.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, for the uninitiated, I think we ought to go back to that torpid August day of 2015.
It's so bad. Have you been to DC in the summer?
Oh my God, it's horrible.
Yeah, and you know what's funny? Like, when I moved to Minnesota, people were like, and we were it was early summer, they're like, oh man, it's so humid here in the summer, just wait till you experience the humidity. I'm like, dude, you guys have never been to DC.
That's right.
Like, DC humidity, totally different story. Our first spring here, what I discovered was that in northern Minnesota, as soon as in spring, as soon as the temperature hits 72 degrees, all the air conditioners in the neighborhood come on.
Really?
You can just hear them in people's windows. They're like, oh, it's so hot. So yeah, some kind of culture stuff.
They've got a very narrow comfort zone out there, right?
Oh my God, like, so Minnesotans, like, every Minnesotan talks so much trash about how they're like, they're used to the cold and they're tough and everything.
Know.
But nobody in the country complains more about the cold than Minnesotans.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
bar none.
That is so true. And we all came in a deluge tonight, and my first instinct was to run in here and go, can you believe what's going on with the weather out there? No, let go of that. We're used to that. Okay, so torpid August day 2015, young, cynical data reporter for the Washington Post.
Yeah, that's fair.
All that's true?
Yeah,
good.
Definitely.
Check. And you spot this, is it like a metric of the best and the worst places in America to live? And there's an interesting kind of, as I said, metric over that. Explain how this crossed your desk.
So like, so in the summer in DC, like everything's slow and everything. In newsrooms, it's probably that way here too.
Oh,
like
yeah.
Everything shuts down
Oh,
because like
no,
lawmakers,
it's
like
hugely
lawmakers
busy
are all
here all
like,
the time.
yeah, lawmakers are all on vacation. Nobody's doing anything.
Right.
But I saw this press release that mentioned this data set. And it was a data set from the USDA, so it was like legit. It wasn't just like, garbage. Like there's a lot of like data sets that companies are using to try to sell you stuff or whatever, but this was good. It was the USDA, and they called it the Natural Amenities Index. And they said it was a metric of the physical characteristics about a place that make it a nice place to live. And so think of things like, like water, lakes, Minnesota, land of 10,000 lakes, mountains and hills, mild weather, all those kind of things that people kind of assume stereotypically as nice place to live. And they kind of took all these measures about every single county in America, all 3,000 counties, and they kind of put them in a big statistical blender and they shook them all up and it kind of spat out this metric. And the great thing is that they ranked it, right? So they ranked all the counties against each other. And this isn't what they used it for. They weren't trying to like create a federal beauty pageant.
Well, what were
right?
they trying to do, by the way?
So they were studying, they were actually studying why people tend to move out of rural areas.
Okay.
And one of the hypotheses they had is that like harsh conditions, places with harsh weather, you might see more people moving out of there. And they found that was kind of true in some places, but not kind of true in others. So they created this big index, and then they kind of did nothing with it for like 20 years. And then so I stumbled across it. I was like, this would be a great, 10 best and worst places to live in America kind of story, because people love that kind of story, right? Like everyone knows everyone likes to know where their county ranks on something. One thing I found out, by the way, Minnesotans, you guys are crazy with the rankings, because like Minnesota ranks so highly on so many different things, like education and income and all these other things, and you guys know it, and you're really, really, really proud of it. And I did not know this about you guys when I wrote that story, and I would have worded things differently probably. But yeah, you guys are like very aware of where you stand.
But then you wouldn't be here if you had worded it differently.
Yeah, I wouldn't be here at all. So yeah.
Yeah, we're pretty proud.
Yeah, this is all a product of my ignorance. So I'm happy to be here.
So you say that you knew even as you were writing the piece that some index that ranks places, by their beautiful landscapes is just kind of crap. Right? I mean, you kind of, you're saying...
So you need to have appropriate skepticism of these
all right.
things, right? You need to
Sorry.
I don't know. Well, this is a problem with journalism in general, right?
That's right. That's where I was
because
going.
you know that there are always limits to what you can say, right? There are limits to how good your data is and how good your evidence is. But you also know you want people to read it, right? And so you want to really, want to really stick it to them in the headline to get that attention. And especially with data, like it's a huge problem with data because there's so many limits to what things can tell you and what they don't tell you, and what there's stuff that you know that it's not telling you and that you don't. It's like crazy. So I tried to keep some distance, but at the end of the day, you're going to call out the number one place, and you're also going to call out the last place.
Right. So the difficult thing with data reporting is there's so many qualifiers, right? And you're very aware of all the qualifiers, but you want the Post wants a sexy headline. So here you are kind of distilling this complicated, okay, so how did this happen? How'd this work? Take me, okay, you see this metric, you think, hey, this could be fun on a slow August day at the Washington
it's going to be fun,
What happens next in the newsroom?
In the newsroom, is this before I write the story? Or
as you're writing the story.
Oh, yeah. I pitch it to my editors, and they're like, yeah, go for it. Like, do this thing. This is fine. And so I made a map, right? Like I made a map of the data so people can see for themselves, where their counties ranked. And then I wrote out the story. And when you do a story like this, right, you have to call out the number one place because everyone wants to know that. And like the most beautiful place in America, according to this, is like Ventura County, California, right? Mediterranean climate, whatever. But then the dead last place was a little place I'd never heard of called Red Lake County, Minnesota. And I knew nothing of Minnesota, like never been to Minnesota in my life.
Had you done any research? I mean, I think
Well,
you went
I
online.
did,
Yeah, you went online. You
Like,
started looking up some
of
things.
course,
What popped out when you started looking
Well,
at
I had to
details?
Google Red Lake County because you can't just say like Red Lake County is a dump. The end. Like you need the local color, right? Like you need to know like what their claim to fame. Like what do they do there? Are they farmers? Are they whatever? Like their largest ball of twine or whatever. And you know what's really funny? I did a presentation a few weeks ago, actually, at a town not too far from here, where they actually had the largest ball of twine.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, Darwin. It was outside of Darwin.
Where
And
is that? Has anybody seen
Darwin.
that?
It's in
I've
Darwin.
Heard of that.
Yeah, so I was near there. I forget what the time it was, but I was near there, and I was giving the spiel, and I was kind of like making fun of the idea of largest ball of twine, and then all these people were like, like it happened all over again.
You still have not learned your
learned.
lesson.
No.
Clearly.
But so I'm looking up. I Google Red Lake County, and like, all right, I'm gonna find out something, and they got a county website, right? Cool, I can find my information here, and it's like this dopey rural county website, right? Like they've got a community calendar that hasn't been updated in like 5 years, and there's like the heading is like, check out our fun events, and there's no events, right? And then, but they had a fun facts section, right? And this is like, yes, this is what I want. I want the fun facts. Give me the fun facts. So I click on that, and there's one fun fact. And the fun fact is, and I quote, I remember this line like it was yesterday, we are the only landlocked county in the United States that is surrounded by just 2 adjacent counties.
Hilarious.
That was fun. This is what passes for fun in Northwest Minnesota, right? So I'm like, okay, like this is clearly podunk. Like, who knows if these people even have internet connections, or they're not going to read this. Can they even read? I don't even know. So I'm just going to like have some fun with this. And yeah, like Red Lake County was the other, right? Like these people are the other. So I'm just going to say whatever and not even think about it because they're not going to read about it or think about it.
So you published the piece, and I think you describe what comes back at you as a torrent of feedback.
Yeah,
Give us a
feedback's a gentle
sampling.
way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah,
no,
give us a
so-
little sampling of what showed up in your
Oh,
feeds.
so we published the story at like 8:27, and like by 8:32, my mailbox was full. of,
Wow. With
of
Minnesotans or everybody?
Oh no, it was just Minnesotans.
Fantastic.
It was the most polite hate mail I've ever received. Very polite, but very, very, very indignant. And it was people from all over Minnesota who were just shocked at the idea that their beautiful state could possibly show so poorly in this federal data set. And they acted like I'm the guy who, and so I go back on the typical reporter thing, like, oh, well, I didn't decide this, I was just reporting, I was just passing, don't shoot the messenger or whatever, and they weren't buying it. Of course not. So
What did that remind me of what the headline actually said? Do you know?
No, I don't even remember that headline.
Okay.
No, it was like, every county in America ranked by scenery and climate. That's what it was.
Oh, boring.
Yeah,
'Cause that's
no,
not
yeah.
Who read that?
Yeah, I know. Well, Minnesotans
A lot of
did,
people. A lot of people.
Yeah,
Okay.
apparently because Minnesotans saw the word ranked in the headline. And they were like, click, 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 we're gonna see where they thought.
Like a moth to a flame.
Right,
Where
right,
are
I
we
think
on
that's
that?
what
Okay,
happened,
sorry to interrupt. So, mailbox is full of hate mail,
Yeah,
but it's
polite, yeah.
polite hate mail.
Minimal swearing, which is very unusual.
What
yeah.
stood out in the torrent?
Well, so what started, like, people started, they set up, like, they ended up setting up this hashtag campaign, show me your ugly counties or something, and there was people from all over Minnesota submitting photos of, and they were tagging me in all of these photos, and they were tagging my employer, of course, to let my bosses, to let Marty Barron, know that their idiot reporter Chris Ingraham had made Minnesota mad. So all these, photos and hashtags, and there was actually this whole like Twitter account and movement called Indignant Minnesotans sprung up. And you guys, if you're familiar with Twitter, you're probably familiar with them, but they sprung
Familiar,
up into
they
kind of,
are the
They
indignant.
probably, yeah. I mean, you guys are probably some of the people sending me those nasty grams, yeah.
Right.
So, just all kinds of stuff coming in from all quarters. And it just kind of snowballed, right? Because it was August, there's nothing else going on. So, like, your lawmakers get in on it too, right? State lawmakers and Amy Klobuchar and, like everyone. And so once a senator weighs in on something, then everyone has to cover it, right? And so then it starts becoming a story in and of itself.
At what point do you decide, I think, you get an invitation, I think, to come to Red Lake. Your wife, I love this. It's Brianna, right?
Yeah.
Your wife. She's like, are they going to tar and feather?
Yeah, no, yeah, yeah. That's the polite version.
And I know
of what
why.
she's saying. Yeah.
That's the polite
Yeah.
version. Okay, so at what point are you starting to think, oh, it'd be fun if I went there? No, I'm really going to go there.
Yeah,
Write
no,
a story.
it was like right away, you know.
Really?
I was like, heck yeah, I'm gonna do this. Like, this is
Yeah?
fun. I'm like, you know, I don't get to, like, I'm a data reporter, right? I'm
Yeah.
like behind my computer all day. I don't get to travel that much, and you know, my editors want me to get out of the newsroom more. So they were all for it. Like, my wife was very skeptical, but my editor was like, yes, go do it, right? Because like, reporter murdered by polite and Midwestern like that'll sell papers, right? So the business side of the Post was all for it. Like, we will
right.
support you, whatever you need.
What did your wife really think was going to happen to you?
No, she was like,
Like they're going to run you out of town?
yeah, like run me out of town, or like, I don't even, like, we had no frame of reference for like, because, you know, we grew up in upstate New York, but whatever, like, horrible things small town Minnesotan people do when they're angry, we had no idea. Like, some kind of weird Children of the Corn stuff or something. Like, I don't even know. We couldn't imagine. It was horrors beyond our comprehension. But we decided to go with it anyway.
So your guide for this immersion in the wilds of northern Minnesota includes then 10-year-old Jace, who told you that he and his family wanted little to do with Minneapolis. So you land, you're greeted, you've got the welcoming party, and among them is Jace, who's already ditching on Minneapolis. And you ask why, and he says, there's cars everywhere and the people are crazy looking. which I love that moment, because I thought, no matter where you go in America, you're gonna find people who are like, not them. It's us. We've got the formula here, right?
Right,
We know
yeah.
what's going on.
Yeah.
So I wondered if that stayed with you when, you know, some of your cynicism and assuredness of, hey, that story was right, started to drop away as you were guided around the town.
Yeah, so, and like, I always, like, in the back of my mind, I always knew that there were limits of the data set, and that like, what is desirable in a place, even just the physical elements of it, that's largely a function of the person, right? Because some people really love living in deserts, some people really love the woods. Like, the thing that blew my mind was like a lot of like really hot desert places like Tucson, they just, because of the way the metrics were, Tucson ranked like we're really high. And like, I would never live in Tucson, because it's like in the summer, it's like being inside a hot car like all day.
I
You
just
can't
spent
escape
like
it. It's
months
madness.
in Tucson.
Yeah, and like it ranked high in this thing. So I know that there was kind of a subjective element to it, but I think I getting out there and just kind of seeing this mode. Like I was not prepared for the mode of small town life that I saw there, because it had been a while since I lived in small town. And small towns in upstate New York are kind of different than they are out here. And the main rural narrative is kind of that like hillbilly elegy thing, right? Where like everybody's like strung out and depressed and they don't have jobs and everything. So that's kind of what I figured I was walking into, some kind of whatever the Midwestern version of hillbillies is. I don't know, like you don't have hills, so you can't have hillbillies. But like I figured it was, something like stray dogs wandering around the streets or whatever. Like I had no idea.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so the question was, when did some of your assumptions, I guess, start to fall away? How many minutes did it take before you realized you were so wrong?
So I'm expecting hillbilly elegy, right? And I drive into town, and this guy Jason's like, meet us at the courthouse. We've got a couple people who want to meet you, and then we'll show you around. Like, cool, okay. So I pull up to the courthouse, and I get out of the car, and the high school marching band picks up a tune. And it's not just a couple people, there's like half the town there, and they've got the mayor and the vice mayor and the city council and everything. And instead of hillbilly elegy, it was like this Norman Rockwell tableau of like small town America, like the kind of thing that you think like only exists in like like Green Acres or something like that, like back in the day. I don't even know what that is. Like
Green Acres.
That's what I've been told. That's what I've been told by my.
They
by
were
my elders.
hillbillies too, right?
And so it was very surprising to see a kind of just a kind of wholesome small town, wholesome rural kind of setting. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting to be more depressed by it.
Is this where we should pause to talk about where you were coming from?
We can, yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
there is good context there.
Yeah.
You guys were living in suburban DC,
Mm-hmm.
but a ways out, because you had a very long commute.
Yeah. Hour and a half one way.
Paying a lot of money for a house that you were growing out of. I mean,
So,
give
yeah.
us a little detail about.
So we were living, I was living an hour and a half one way outside of DC, and this is hour and a half on a good day, by the way. So to get to work, I would drive to the train station. I would take the train down to the metro station. I would take the metro to my local stop, and then I would get out and walk. So it's like 4 different connections. And at any one of those points, something can go wrong and completely ruin the entire day. So if like you miss one connection, your commute goes from 1.5 to like 3 hours. Or if there's a storm, it's 4 hours. And so like spending, you know, and I'm sure a lot of people in here have had this experience too, spending 15, 20, 30 hours a week just commuting and doing nothing. And it's just, you know, kind of lost time because you can't really do much then. So we were doing that. We were living in a 900 square foot row house. 900 square foot, it was, and we bought it in 2009. It was 900 square foot row house, $250,000 was how much it was. And this was in Baltimore. This wasn't even in DC. We were like way out in the boonies. And the thing was, you know, the row house was fine for like young couple with no kids, but we had twins shortly before that. And they were getting old and they were starting to walk. And it was 900 square feet spread across 4 stories. So the house is all stairs, right? And all the parents in here are like, because like toddlers, it was a toddler death trap, right? Like we could just, it was just a matter of time before one of them tumbled all the way from the attic down to the basement. And it was awful. So we knew we had to get a bigger place or something. But again, the pricing was just so crazy. We couldn't afford it. We didn't want to move even farther out. We were kind of stuck.
Okay. So good context for why this all seems so bucolic and Norman Rockwell-ish.
Yes.
Okay,
absolutely.
what happens next after the band and the greeting party?
Yeah, so they tried to haze me. They tried, and I only realized this after the fact because it was done very politely, and it took me a while. It took me a while to understand all the nuances of Minnesota nice. I understood the surface level, like, it's like an iceberg, right? There's like the nice stuff on the surface, and then there's all the passive aggressive stuff underneath, right?
So true.
So they were like, the first stop, they're like, oh, we're gonna take you to a dairy farm. I was like, yay, cool, a dairy farm. I didn't realize that they were like trying to make the city guy like wade through cow poop, you know, and like kind of like see how I responded to the earthy smells of a rural dairy operation. But the thing is, I gained lots of street cred with them at this because they didn't realize that my dad was a large animal veterinarian. And I spent lots of times on farms as a child, on dairy farms. So I love the sights and smell of farms. So I got there, and there was a bunch of like little baby calves, you know, and I just went over and started petting the calves, and I was just all goofy and excited because that's the way I get around animals. And they're like, oh my God, the reporter guy's petting the cow, what is he doing? And then it was really cool because there were like TV crews there. And one of the cameramen tried to like follow me and the farmer into the barn, and he started like retching and throwing up because the smell was so bad. And so the fact that this like DC guy was like just strutting around the barn, petting the cows and stuff, while one of the locals is barfing in the corner, that like really raised my profile.
Wow. You know, all through the book I kept thinking, this is just a constant mismatch of perception. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, you come in with all these wrong ideas, and you're greeted by people who they don't really know you. They've probably got a million misperceptions. What do you think they thought you were?
Oh no, they thought I was a total. And they told me as much. Like by the time we had like gained each other's trust and everything, they're like, "You are totally different than we thought we were going to be," because they figured I'd just be some kind of like snooty reporter kind of guy. And you know, we just. And it was striking for all of us, I think, just how much common ground there was. I got there, and it was, within 5 minutes, I was like, oh, these are just normal people. Like, this isn't, like, these aren't hillbillies. This isn't children of the corn. These are just, like, normal dudes who, like, you know, they have jobs and they have kids and stuff like that. Okay, we totally got a lot in common here, so.
What I kept thinking about as I was reading and marking up the book, lots to talk about, was, do you remember The Big Sort? The book that from Bill Bishop that came out. I think it was, 2008 or 2009?
Something like that, yeah.
So he uses a lot of data. But what he's really writing about is how we are increasingly gathering ourselves in places where like-minded people, where we live near like-minded people, we go to church with the same, and I just kept thinking of the lessons of that book with your experience here, because there was a lot of assumption because of kind of who we live around. What is that? Could I just ask you for a minute what that book kind of, if that informed your experience at all, or whether you think it has anything to say about your experience?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think he's absolutely right. Like, that's definitely what happens. People just tend to they like to be around people who are like them and what they like. And partly because of that, I was expecting there to be more difference and more discard, and I did not expect to be able to connect on a way with these folks the way that I did after 3 or 4 days. And unfortunately, you do see a lot of that in just a lot of typical press coverage of rural areas.
Absolutely.
From places like the Post and the New York Times, where they get somebody who grew up on Manhattan their entire lives, and they parachute them in for 12 hours, and they go to the diner in the middle of the day, and they find exactly what they're looking for, and then they go out, but they don't tend to get the full experience and the full context, and to see who these people really are, and to kind of present them as human. It's like diner safaris. They call it diner safaris because the mindset, and you can feel it in every word of these stories. The stories that come out is just of these rural people as other and something different than these people that we're kind of studying behind the microscope, and it's just kind of very strange and dehumanizing.
What's interesting about that is after the 2016 election, I know there were a lot of East Coast media organizations that were like, what happened? We have to learn what's happening in rural America. And there was kind of this, let's go see the animals in the zoo sort of approach.
100%.
Who could these people be? And again, I think of that with the way we polarize. So much of that is kind of reinforced by the way this gets covered, but also because we live in communities where there just are not that many other different people around us. I was just curious about, from a data standpoint and your observation, how you see that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the rural-urban divide, it's overstated in a lot of ways.
Did you hesitate to even call it that?
Yeah.
Because I hate that phrase.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and the thing is, people in small towns, they consume the same media and watch the same news, and everything, especially today, everything is so nationalized in terms of the news and media and the stuff that people do. And those make up increasingly large parts of our personalities and how we understand the world.
Yes.
And so those kind of differences are shifting, and you can find more difference between a Republican voter and a Democratic voter who both live in the same city. Those people are going to be more different than a Democrat from a city and a Democrat from a rural area. The rural Democrat and the city Democrat are going to have much more in common than a Democrat and Republican who live in the same neighborhood.
But even, I covered the state legislature here for a long time, and the way, the tenor of the debate sounds like all Minnesotans, all debating with very good intentions, the future of the state, but there is you city people have no idea why are you spending money on that, and then we're going to have to pay your taxes, and the political class kind of reinforces this too.
Yeah, and I'll say the misunderstandings go both ways too, right? And that was one of the really interesting things, because having never been to Minnesota, growing up on the East Coast, and everybody, nobody on the East Coast really understands Minneapolis, that it's a city. They think Chicago is the only proper city in the Midwest.
True.
Yeah, and they think of Minneapolis as this little charming hobbit village
with
it's all farmers markets and stuff like that. And so they have no idea that it's just a huge metropolis of 8 million people. But then people up there, I found, you talk to them about this Minneapolis, they're like, oh, Minneapolis, oh, scary city.
That's why I
lots of
thought
crime.
Jace,
And
the 10-year-old.
Exactly. Yeah. So totally different perceptions of the same place, which are not at all rooted in reality.
Yeah. How do you see that as an outsider, having experienced the cities and now living where you do.
Yeah, no, I was surprised by Minneapolis too. Actually, one of the first things I did before I moved out here, I ended up going to Fargo to do an event in Fargo. And I was like, oh, Fargo, I knew it from the movie. Like, I figured it was like, I figured it was like,
Oh, so yeah, you knew it.
a fur trading outpost on like the edge of the wilderness or whatever. And I get there, there's like little coffee shops and like art galleries and stuff. I was like, oh, again, this is a normal place where normal people live. Who would have ever guessed?
I mean, one of the consequences of this is this real diminishment of social trust. And I think you've written about that, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know how we rebuild that. Maybe you just reflect on that for a minute.
Yeah, I think that's largely a political problem. I don't think that's an urban-rural problem. I mean, how much time do we have? We could really get into this. But, you know, it's politics in this country are so toxic. And in my view, it's not just politics, it's particularly what the Republican Party is doing to politics, and that the way, you know, the Republican Party, in my view, has kind of been working to undermine trust in institutions. I mean, you look at the data and trust in like news media and schools and scientists and everything, just down the tubes the past 20 years. And it's concentrated mostly in Republican voters. And that's, you know, as part of a very specific ideological project. They're trying to promote that kind of individualism, and that kind of, you know, property owning, that kind of thing that's very good for them politically. I think it's unfortunately very bad for like us as a society because, you know, it's eroding so much of the glue that kind of holds us all together.
I mean,
and so it's a huge problem.
The cohesion of what it means to be an American, what it means to be a Minnesotan, what it means to be somebody who lives in Red Lake County, even that is diminishing. I don't know what the way back is. Your book made me think a lot about that.
No, when I start thinking about that stuff, I start thinking very dark thoughts,
Do
right?
you?
Like, yeah, no, I don't know what the way back is without absent major upheaval. And if you had asked me like 3 years ago, okay, what kind of major, like, because these problems are very clear even then, halfway through the Trump administration. And if you would ask me, okay, what kind of thing would it take to really kind of shake the conscience of this country and kind of, you know, get us to get our act together? And if you'd said, well, would an insurrection at the Capitol to disrupt vote tallying, do you think that would do it? I'd be like, oh yeah, that would definitely do it. And then it happened, and then nothing changed. And so that's really bad, man. Like, that makes me super, super worried. Because if that's not enough to change things, and if politics as usual after that, things are going to get really bad. And I don't mean to be like all Debbie Downer here, but it's bad.
I mean, we should say, again, you are looking at data that measures social trust, and this is not just your opinion as a Washington, D.C. snooty kind of reporter.
So I'm not at the Post anymore, so I can speak freely about this stuff. I can give my opinion. It's great. Because all reporters do have opinions, they just hide them from you, FYI. So
For sure.
It's an important thing to keep in mind.
Absolutely. Okay, so at what point, we're back to Red Lake on your initial visit. Tell me about the conversation where you go back to Brianna and say, we gotta move there.
I didn't say this.
She
This was
did.
No, it was my mom.
Oh, your
It
mother,
was my
that's
mom.
right,
Yeah, it was my mom.
Your brilliant mother.
My brilliant mother, who's coming to visit in May. Actually.
Is she?
Yeah, she's coming
Good
up
time
visit
to
from
come to
Tampa.
Minnesota.
Yeah, but it's still going to be snowing up there probably. She knows what she
Is it
did.
really?
She did this. This is all her fault. But yeah, we were, my mom was visiting, and we were all talking, trying to figure out what are we going to do with ourselves, and the kids are like climbing all over everywhere. And my mom was like, well, it's simple, really. And we're like, what are you talking about? She's like, you should just move to that nice little Minnesota town you wrote about over the summer. And we were kind of like, Mom, that's pretty funny. But then, we started thinking about it, and I started, juxtaposing all the scenes of rural life and just how the daily grind was different up there. Just so many ways it was different from our daily life in DC. And it started to become real, and we started looking at houses out there, like online. Of course, there's no houses online because nobody puts their homes on like Zillow out there. It's just like, Bob's got a house for sale. Go talk to him. And so, but we did some research, and we eventually got to a place where we convinced ourselves that it would have been financially irresponsible to not move to Minnesota.
Wow. Yeah. And when you told your circle of friends, they said,
Yeah, they're like, are you crazy? Like, are there any Democrats up there? Like, do they have like internet, running water, like that kind of stuff? I was like, yes, they do. And you know, it was weird. Like, among my colleagues, reactions were mixed. Like the 20-somethings were all kind of like, you're crazy, you're out of your mind. Like, why would anybody want to live there? But the somewhat older people in their 30s who had kids, young kids, who had been grappling with some of the exact same stuff we were, they're like, man, that is actually, I can see the appeal in that.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
So this is all pre-pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
and you were a trailblazer,
Yeah.
getting out of the city,
Right,
right?
yeah.
What are you finding among the people that you know who went rural? Have they
Mm-hmm.
have they mostly come back in a way that you haven't?
Some of them have. I hear from people still now who are like, you know, you're like, I think a lot for some people, so people who are familiar with my story
Yeah.
and who are kind of on the edge about wanting to do something similar.
Yeah.
I know the pandemic pushed a lot of people over the edge, and not just
Right.
people who had heard of my situation, but just in general, a lot of
It
people.
became possible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You know, and people have asked me like, what do the data show? And unfortunately, we don't really know yet. Like, we know it's happening. We know that there are more people. It's definitely happening. People going back to rural areas at a faster rate than they were before. But it just hasn't all shaken out yet. And things are so up in the air still with the pandemic, and like some offices are still closed and everything. And a lot of it's just happening kind of weirdly and organically, where it's not like offices are setting like, okay, you can work remotely now. Like, people are just doing it.
Right.
And they're just going to like Kansas or wherever, and then they're telling their employers, if you want me back, like, I'm staying here. So you gotta, you know, it's take me or leave me.
That's right.
So it's given workers a lot more leverage who want to do that kind of thing, which I think is great. I think it's really great.
I was curious about, so how many, the family comes out, you find a house. It's a funny story about how you looked at houses and the one you found.
Mm-hmm.
At what point do you kind of feel like, you know, we are settled and this is good in a way that we weren't sure it was going to be?
Oh, when we were sure that we were doing the right thing?
Yeah.
Oh, it took a while.
Yeah.
Because there was some anxiety, and it still felt like kind of a weird thing it was kind of a weird thing to do. And like a lot of people come up to us and they're like, man, it's kind of like so brave of you guys to move to a place where you don't know anyone really. And you know, I've thought about it. The thing is, like, my wife and I, we had just done so much moving around for our careers, and like she was an Army kid, so her family had moved around, so we were just used to like going to some different place and kind of starting over again. But you know, we had our trepidation, and we were, you know, I think the explicit agreement with work was that, you know, we'll try this for a year and we'll see
With
how
the
it
Washington
goes.
Post,
Yeah.
you mean?
Yeah, that's how I didn't tell my bosses like, see ya, we're out of here forever. I was like, let's try this for a year and see what happens. And if it's still working, then, you know, we'll do it or whatever. But yeah, no, we were kind of a little hesitant.
So
Like,
how far in were you? You said it took a while, like a year or?
I think probably about a year. Like, after we'd been there for a year, we'd experienced the beauty of all 4 Minnesota seasons, or, you know, all 4 Minnesota winter seasons, or whatever it was. Like, once we had been through that, and we made it through the other end, we survived, and we're like, okay, I think we can handle this. And it, you know, some of the things that I suspected that my wife would really like about the place, they did end up holding true for her. She, you know, she's very much like a community-minded person, so she was able to find a lot of those connections there, and I could tell she was finding what she had been looking for a while in that place. So I knew when she was happy, then that's when I kind of know, okay, this can work long term. Yeah, because, you know, if your wife isn't happy, then nobody's happy, right? Like,
I have one other question for you before we go to Q&A, because we're good on time? We're ready for the Q&A?
Yeah.
Okay. So one other question. Along with this, you know, kind of wave of, I don't have to be in an office, I don't have to live in a city, I'm curious about what your data, and I know you're looking at this kind of stuff, tells you about millennials and younger Americans actually doing this. There's a lot of, the Post loves to write about, oh, look at this, the millennials.
right, millennials, yeah, killing
That's
off
right.
everything that their parents loved or
But
whatever, yeah.
I want to know if that's really happening, if the data supports
I think-
going rural.
Yeah, people want to go rural. I think in general, you
They
ask
tell
people.
people they
Yeah, they tell survey writers. Yeah, they're like, it's what they want. If they like all things being equal, like people want to live in a rural area that has all the amenities of a big city, right? Like that's what they want. Like when that doesn't exist, right? But more people are making that trade-off. I think in general, there's been a lot written about like younger generations and how they don't want the house and they don't want the car and they don't want this and they don't want that. And I don't think that's true in a lot of places. I think it's just that they can't afford it, and like the economy has been so bad for so many younger people that they see those things as completely like out of reach. And so whether large numbers of them are going to find living in rural areas is kind of the answer, like the way to do that in an affordable way, I don't know. I hope so. I think it would work out well for them. Right. But whether you're going to see like mass movement, I don't know. It's too early to tell. I honestly don't know.
I'm kind of skeptical about that.
Mm-hmm.
Some of it is like wish casting, right?
Yeah, sure.
I would love to live the simple life,
yeah.
but
But like you said, the simple life is a lot of chopping wood and hauling water, right? Like that's
right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I had a ton more questions, but let's hear yours. What do you want to hear from Chris?
Ask me anything. I will tell you. So I did a bunch of events at the local schools recently, and they asked me absolutely bonkers, off-the-wall stuff. So whatever you guys want to throw at me is totally fine.
What was the most bonkers thing they asked?
They asked me, they asked me what my favorite Air Jordans were. And I had to explain that, like, well, I just wear dad shoes. Like, that's all that I wear. I don't have opinions about sneakers. They asked me how my taste in hip-hop music changed since moving to Minnesota. And so
what was the answer?
Yeah, well, I was like, so I don't listen to much music because I'm a father of 3 kids. So when I have the opportunity, I listen to silence. So I don't listen to anything.
Question
I have
right
a
out
question.
there.
First question is, have you ever read Garrison Keillor, Prairie Home Companion?
Have I ever read? I've heard it. Yeah, I've heard it.
You haven't read it though?
No, I have not read it.
Okay, I just was interested in that.
Uh-huh.
The second thing is, I was so compelled reading your book that I had to go to the database and look up Dakota County. So I just really wanted to introduce Dakota County. I think is 300 and some out of 3,000. So we're pretty proud and.
Wait. 300 out of 3,000? I think you guys were a lot lower than that.
Are you making that up?
I honestly don't remember, but there was, so the only places in Minnesota that look good that I remembered, I don't have the numbers in front of me, was like the North Shore, because they've got like the cliffs and Lake Superior and everything like that. And like, so I made the map, and like the desirable areas were green and the non-desirable areas were brown, and Minnesota was like all brown. like easily bottom 10, 20% of the nation. But I'm gonna have to go home and double check that.
I don't think that's very funny.
No, it's very funny. No. It's extremely funny.
All right, other questions?
The way you talk about your wife is so touching and so poignant. Can you talk about what you learned from her and what you think she may have learned from you through this whole experience?
Oh, God. She's probably learned to never follow me into the frigid north again. She says to me all the time, the next place we're moving is Arizona. Like every year around December, she says that. But what have I learned from her? I couldn't have done this without her. If I was just like a single dude, I think, like without a family, I don't think I would have been able to move out there by myself.
It would have been kind of creepy.
It would be, yeah, it just would have been the weirdo who sticks lives in his basement all day and like comes out once a week to gather food or whatever. Like, it's just so like, my wife like balances me out, and she's like, she's my connection to the community and everything. So we're kind of a good balance that way. And I think we work really well that way. And I don't think this would have been possible without her.
Do you think you're raising Minnesota kids?
Yeah, definitely.
Do
yeah.
you?
Yeah. The other day, one of my kids, he was eating like nacho cheese Doritos or something, and he's like, "Oh, Dad, this is too spicy."
Yeah.
I was like, "You are no son of mine."
All right, another question right up there.
Okay. I have a comment. I have the answer about Dakota County.
Oh, okay. All right.
So, each of the 3,000 plus counties got a specific number but we're also placed into 1 through 7 categories.
Okay.
1 being the lowest, fewest number of natural amenities, 7 being the highest. And that's where Ventura County came in, and I spent the week in Santa Cruz in February. It's quite nice. But, so Red Lake got a number specifically of -6.4 and was ranked number 1. That's the lowest. Everyone here likes living in Lakeville probably, and in Dakota County. Dakota County's specific number was -3.05. Ooh, and we're in the number 2 category, next to the worst.
Yeah.
So I think that all indicates the problems with the index that you used. And that,
absolutely.
Yeah. And I think there were comments at the beginning of the discussion that they were the most beautiful or the ugliest counties, but because of what is made up in the index, which about half of it has to do with weather. So it's the below zeros during the winter and hot, humid summers. And that contributes to, I think, an index that doesn't really describe, as the question you asked, and now we have the ugliest county in America is, drumbeat, Red Lake County. So,
Yes, sir, thank you for the real-time research.
I
Right.
love,
Very
and I love that you can tell that the chip is still on the shoulder for all
Yeah.
I really
Are you
love
feeling
that. I
the vibe
appreciate
there?
the ability to hold a grudge
right.
for 7
Okay.
And just finally,
Another-
hot, humid weather that's best for putting up hay in barns.
Okay, another question here.
Yeah,
Sir.
one of the areas that you really didn't talk about as far as comparing and contrasting and that kind of thing is the faith area. What have you found and discovered in your journey about faith in northwestern Minnesota and Washington, D.C. and that kind of thing?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So like I always joke, like we talk about diversity and they're like, is there any kind of diversity in town? I'm like, well, yeah, there's like so there's 2 Lutheran churches, right? There's 2 different flavors of Lutheran and like a Catholic church. So that's kind of what you get. But no, it was, one of the really interesting thing was like for us, and like in a lot of small communities, the church is kind of like a social hub of the community, and especially for the Lutheran churches there, we've noticed it's you know it's less about specifically like the theology and that, and more just as a community center. And we really kind of, I mean, we're not members of any churches, we're not particularly religious people, but we you know, we've been to plenty of events that the church holds for the town, and it's nice to have that kind of glue in the community.
Another no, we're out of questions. I think we have one right there in the.
Probably have time for one more.
Okay, right there in the.
And you can come grab me afterwards. I'll be out there.
He'll be
with
out
the
there.
Tables, so,
I'll
yeah.
fill you in on this book signing here in just a minute after we get the last question.
Say, I actually read the book, and
Okay.
so I was wondering if you've been hunting or ice fishing.
Yeah, so I went hunting. I wrote about that in the book, and how I
have
did.
you been
I
there
shot a deer, and I felt terrible about it afterwards. But I shot my deer. But it was, you know, so I discovered the other day that hunting for me is a lot like writing. Like I hate writing. I hate the process of writing. But I love having written, right? Like I love having the product at the end. And hunting is the same way. I hated killing the deer, but man, that venison, that was good. I love that. So I've been hunting. And then this winter, we started trying to get into ice fishing, like just starting, right? So we got like an auger and some ice fishing poles and took the kids out. Like we haven't invested yet in like the flip ups or whatever. Like the ice fishing culture here is insane. Like it absolutely blows my mind. But we haven't really got that big into it. But we went out like, I don't know, probably at least 10 or 12 times, and we caught literally nothing all winter.
Chris, thank you for coming.
Thank you so much.
For the
And thank you all for coming
conversation.
too. I really appreciate it.
Okay, a couple of announcements here. Remember to stop by and meet Chris. You can ask him all your questions that we didn't get to. You can purchase a book or have your book signed. A lot of you brought your books. Chris will sign them. Michael Monroe will also be selling CDs and signing CDs in the upper lobby. And if you're not headed to the lobby, feel free to use the lower level exit. On behalf of Friends of the Heritage Library, the Library, the Arts Center, and all of the sponsors, we hope you've enjoyed One Book, One Lakeville. I have one other thing, since we're all about books here. Talking Volumes starts September 14th. And I wish I could tell you who it's going to be because it's going to be amazing. But I hope you'll look for the schedule. Thank you for being here tonight.
It's what I needed then to move on to now. You can get lost